in the United States and Caribbean and the diaspora, and also almost good night out there. Good evening, deep, deep good evening in the East African community out there, or West or North or South of Ghana, or wherever you're watching from. Want to welcome you to another edition, the first week opening on the Pan African Daily TV. I hope all of us are doing fine. Of course, there are always going to be challenges everywhere on earth, be it in the diaspora, on the continent. We know that a lot of people are going through, difficult situations, but some other people also are doing. So we wish you a happy time out there, whatever situation you find yourself in. Remember, life is just a journey. So be strong. And if you are celebrating or enjoying or doing some other thing, we also wish to celebrate with you. And we say love and stay safe out there. Today, we go open this session with a lot of learning, a lot of listening. And please, I hope you already getting ready to get your materials, like, just put some points and notes. The video is going to be produced and it's going to stay here, but so take your pens and papers and jots, or on your iPhones or whatever, open your words or your notepad and be ready to take some very important points, because who we are having here with us, our special exclusive guest and scholar, is going to train us on how to change our minds. We've been talking about one of the challenges that Africans have worldwide. One amongst, I just say one, but the first key point is our brains. Our brains don't belong to us. Take into consideration our history, our past, our present situation, the world systems, the agenda on the continent. We barely just even know who we are. And so it's like we're functioning in another skin, but our brains are not our own. So we begin to wonder why we misunderstand ourselves a lot, why Africa is actually underdeveloped, why we retarded in our thinking, even us personally as African people. Why is our growth rate and our mentality structure so retarded that we're slow to develop and become actually who we are? And most often we don't even tap into the very essence of our potentials to be able to outperform, in our full capacity. So all these questions Africans have been so confronted in, onto sometimes we begin to think, what is really wrong with us African people? We see other race progress. We see, even though, of course, they have their own challenges, but what does it concern us? We're more concerned particularly about us. And we've been saying that actually we're not functional enough. Like, for instance, how come that we are so one of the richest continents and people in terms of capacity? Why are we always the less privileged? Why is some other person always doing some things to us, in their favor? So yes, we know that we have these challenges. We cannot deny it. But of course, we also know that despite all these challenges, we are the most productive people and have the essence of life. As a matter of fact, we've been referred to as the only human beings. The only human beings. And that's why I'm very happy today. We're having Reverend Philippe Mathews, and he's going to be educating us on this topic: decoding and deconstructing the colonized trauma bond of the African mind. I mean, look at the topic itself. So you can see a lot of history, a lot of daily life, a lot of everything, family, spirituality, culture, whatever it is. So our professor, our reverend, yes, reverend, minister, advocate, trainer, scholar, expert, or whatever, he is not even under one quotation to describe him, has taken all his time from everything that he's been doing. What his focus is about is, how do we get solutions to all the complaints? It's not just about a dialogue. It's not just about an ordinary conversation, but it's more or less like the tips and trainings and the methods to which we can get out of this trauma. Yes, we know all our challenges, But what is it that stops us from acting or behaving in the right way? What is it that causes that pain and regret, that we begin to think, oh, I should have done this, but why am I doing this? So there must be some invisible hand, that just controls us and we are not accountable for. So today we're going to listen to this wonderful presentation. And I can already tell you, it is not just a conversation. Reverend Shuck is here, not for the first time, but he came this time with a whole presentation. What does that mean? He took all his time, put the presentation out there. So even after the conversation and after the show, you can always share this video. You can download it. You can watch it really on your smart TV screen, when you relax at work or weekends, you just want to learn. So this is more or less like a professional class, put to you out there by our wonderful expert. So I look forward. I'm also ready, as you can see. Look at my pen to have here, my paper, my pen, because I'm really anxious to learn. Because it's just not normal. No matter how we want to progress, there's always something that is going to bring us again against each other, our nations against. There are people, our leaders against the young people. I mean, it's just something. And now is the time for us to not just talk, but to train ourselves. Train yourself every day. Get up every day. Take the steps on which he's going to educate us on and train it. Everything in life is a training. Like Nelson Mandela said, if we were trained to hate, so we can be trained to love. Don't underestimate that potential, that capacity to really explore and say, yes, I can work on myself. I have the capacity. I'm intelligent. I'm smart. So I can read and understand. And even when I don't find solution, I can look for solutions. You have all your experts here. So yes, that's the introduction to the topic for today and all what we would have to learn. We'll just get back to studio and ask our guests, what is it that we're expecting to learn and why must we learn it now? What is it that is wrong and how can we get out of this? Good evening, Rev.
Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. How are you guys?
Oh, yeah, good afternoon. I'm so
Good
sorry.
morning.
I'm just good.
Good night somewhere in the world, right? Hotep community.
Is this also a problem? I mean, like, just I'm sitting here, it's evening, it's night, or getting night out there, and you're there, it's afternoon. Do you think also this difference in time and weather could also play a key role in the development of humans, particularly us Africans, that we're taken from the sun and now we are somehow in the cold?
Absolutely, absolutely. I wish I was near the equator with all of my family, my original people, because that's where we come from, but that's where all humanity comes from. But because we're African, we're undefeatable and undeniable. It doesn't matter where you put us and where we go, we will thrive and we will survive.
I like that. Yes, of course, because it's not possible coming from the sun people that we are, and then getting into the snow people. How do we mutate? How does an African, survive all through these challenges? Is this also the reason why we survive all sort of weather? So we survive all our challenges?
Absolutely. The fact that we are still here, think about the concept that the creator is not going to create something that is fallible, something that is weak. The creator is going to create, particularly in human form, something that will be able to stand the test of time. And that's the African, because we are a direct reflection of the creator. So it makes sense that the creator is going to create perfection. And anytime nature has a glitch in the matrix, if you will, nature corrects itself, which is what we're going through right now as we're looking at what's happening with what we call the Amu or the European. But the African is still standing and will always stand.
Wow. Yeah, irrespective of that, but we also, I mean, like Africans also go through a lot of pain, a lot of challenges in our lives, and individually, also as a collective human race, despite all the fact that we can survive I mean, our past, our present, and the future. What is it more that we can even do to achieve that earlier?
Well, this presentation is part of my sermon that I do, and I modified it particularly for an African audience today. So what I want to go through is this PowerPoint presentation that I presented. And it's a three-part piece. As I say, nothing's wrong with us. Something happened to us. And so when we make that statement, we have to quantify and qualify that. So let me open up this PowerPoint. Let's see if we can get this open here. And you'll let me know if you're able to see it. Are you able to see that first screen?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes.
And let me know at any time if you have a question or something stops or freezes, let me know, because I kind of go through the content quite rapidly as I get involved. So we're going to be talking about decoding and deconstructing the colonized trauma bond of the African mind.
Just tap a little bit. What is it that you would want us to take along with, so that people just already get already focused on the point?
Sure. Well, just have pen and paper, because I'm going to go into some deep history of how this happened, and where we're at, and what the psychological bond of this trauma, what it looks like. I think sometimes when we look at Sankofa, going back to come forward, we have to go back and look at where did the history start, because it's a lot of holes, a lot of places that we don't really understand. So what I always do is I start out with our affirmation of power. And so our affirmation of power at first frequency of oneness is: I am one with first frequency. I am one with the first thought idea. I am one with the firstborn people, which is African. I am one with the only one, which is the creator. And then we say Ashe, and so it is. Now, this presentation is dedicated to my three spiritual mothers: Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, who says, "You are the thinker who thinks the thought that makes the thing." Reverend Dr. Helen Carey, and of course, Nana Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. Now, I'm also giving a special dedication to our ancestors who built the U.S. Capitol. As you know, we went through an insurrection, which we're going to be going through the history of where this kind of insurrection today happened and what they did as a result of that first insurrection. But this is dedicated to those who gave their lives, our ancestors who gave their lives and their labor, but also their genius in building the greatest architecture in the world. So this presentation is brought to you by Nothing's Wrong with Black People. Something happened to Black people. And so what I decided to do is to take a piece of my sermon and chop it up into 7 pieces and give it to the community, where they can get it wherever they're at. So if you have a Spotify, if you're on iTunes, if you're on Napster, Amazon, or iHeartRadio, you can just type in Metaphysical Morpheus or Nothing is Wrong with Black People, and you can listen to that on any of your music devices. So what is first frequency of oneness? We help create spiritual, psychological, and emotional barriers to the hidden signal of racial battle fatigue and domestic terror. We remove the African and the African American from the effects of false racial identities that we define as third and fourth frequency. We help the African and African American to overcome their trauma bonding, capture bonding, and Stockholm syndrome to whiteness, which is what we're going to be talking about today, as well as we're a culturally specific teaching ministry, meaning that this ministry is dedicated exclusively to Africans, for Africans, and by Africans only. And we help Africans and African Americans reveal their natural first frequency signal and vibration. And so this frequency of oneness is based on science, not self-esteem. So I'm not here to necessarily make you feel good. I'm here to make you understand who you are and what you are originally. And we are a teaching ministry, not a preaching ministry. So for some of you who may have been and don't know my background or haven't seen me or are seeing me for the first time, I'm known as the Metaphysical Morpheus. I have a master's degree in metaphysical science and philosophy, currently working on my doctorate in the same field. I have a 3-part fireside chat series that I did with brother Billy B-Man Bird, where you can go in and kind of get some backstory and back history on me, on how I became the Metaphysical Morpheus and what I do and why I do what I do for the community. Of course, I'm the founding minister of First Frequency of Oneness, Science, Manifestation, and Prosperity. And SHOCK, by the way, stands for Seeking Higher Omnipotent Conscious or Cosmic Knowledge. I'm also the founder of the Shock Metaphysics Virtual Comedic Wisdom School, where we have all of our greatest scholars, many who have appeared on this program, Dr. Kaba Kamene, Professor James Smalls, Leonard Jeffries, and so many, where you can get weekly lessons from these great and amazing people. I'm the host of the Philippe Mathews Show. I've authored more than 19 books. This lecture is based on my master's theses that you can get at academia.edu. So there's a lot of content that you can download. And I'm also going to be giving the PDF PowerPoint presentation of this to the community, and I'll stick to the end of this program so you can know how to do that. Professor Kaba refers to me as the Marcus Garvey of our time. Mark Victor Hansen of Chicken Soup for the Soul refers to me as the Oprah of the internet. So let's talk about part one, this concept called the white lie. And before we get started, let's talk about three things that I really want the community to understand. Number one, you are not poor or financially struggling because you choose to be. You are poor or financially struggling because you were pre-programmed and socially engineered to be before you were born. And we're going to go into the history science of how that happened and what we can do about it. Number two, you were born into a system that infected, affected, and effected your mother, father before you were born, and have been an unconscious victim of a deliberate, systemized economic oppression before your brain and nervous system could do anything about it. So this happened in your childhood, even at pre-birth, while you were in the womb. So when I say nothing is wrong with you, something happened to you, we suffer from this invisible DNA or epigenetic tags, what's known as genetic memory, of racial battle fatigue, post-traumatic slave syndrome, and race-based traumatic stress injury and violence, as we understand it from Dr. Nzinga Dalila, that has taught the African and African-American brain how to adapt to the learned helplessness. It's a learned behavior. Poverty is a learned behavior. Financial struggle is a learned behavior, but it's due to whiteness. So that's what we're going to get into. And let's talk about these three white lies and the three white boys. There was a blunt psychological instrument, a colonizing instrument that hit Africans and created the African American. And we're going to go really hard into this. So first, of course, is the white boy on the boat that I refer to, called Columbus. And this is where colonization really took place and began this tyranny of domestic terror. Colonialism is the policy of a country seeking to extend or retain its authority over other people or territories, generally with the aim of economic dominance, right? This is why Africa is the center of civilization, because it has the highest value than any other piece of land or in the world. In the process of colonization, colonizers imposed their religion, their religion, economics, and other cultural practices of or on indigenous people. Now, here's the next piece. Number two is the white boy on the stick. This is a complete and total fabrication and lie. I'm going to go into the history of where that come from. Now, I did an interview with Dr. Obadele Akinani, Obadele Cambone, who is, of course, there in Ghana, educated here in the United States at Harvard, one of our top scholars and linguists, came onto my platform, onto my show, and he did an amazing presentation. But this is what he had to say. Let's see if it'll click and you'll be able to hear it.
Proverb, a Swahili proverb, which says, if you inherit a name, you must also adopt its affairs. So this means if you inherit the name Africa, then the affairs of Africa are being a good province to Rome. And this is what we see when I live in Ghana. I was just in Togo and Benin. I had such high hopes for Benin, but I see this imaginary white boy on a stick all over Benin. I see this imaginary white boy on a stick all over Togo. I see people praying to a rock in the desert, 5 times a day everywhere. They're acting like Roman provincialists.
Understand this, that this is part of the white lie. And so as we move forward and start to decode and understand what happened to us, because nothing is wrong with us, there's a two-layered lie that occurred. One lie is Jesus is white. The second lie, if you are beginning to become inquisitive, is that Jesus is black or African or Coptic Egyptian. Well, the truth is that there has never been, and this is Dr. Walter Williams in the Historical Origins of Christianity and Religion, there has never been a man that ever walked the earth in human form of any race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ. Christ was created from the image of Ptolemy the First Lagi, an uncivilized European who tried to get himself accepted into our ancient Egyptian or Kemetic ancestors' priest society. Now, some of you, this might be a complete and total shock. That's why we call it seeking higher omnipotent conscious knowledge. There's a method to the madness. And so somebody has to be able to bring this level of truth to you, but it can be a shock to you when you have been praying to this imaginary white boy on a stick and realize it never occurred, that it was completely due to trying to dominate a massive amounts of people in perpetuity. Christianity, Barbara Hillary says, is the greater shackle, the greater rape of the black mind than slavery ever was. And this is what we're dealing with right now in real time. Look at the science family of where this comes from. In Egypt or Kemet, it's known as Atum, which is the first frequency, right? That's the dust. Science calls it the atom, which is stardust, carbon. From there, they manufactured this falsehood story of religion and called it Adam. And this is what we're looking at in terms of how we're beginning to unpack this science. So the third lie is a white boy in the sky. Now, if we come from the creator, we come from the black, we come from carbon, we come from dark matter, we come from dark energy, this is not the image of us. This is not the image of our deity. This is not the image of our divine. This is not the image of our creator. And so when we understand this, Dr. Oba Tshaka teaches us that even the term God is a German word. It's a transitive verb. The real name for God is Amma, which is what the Dogon refers to the creator as. So we're trying to change our language. By changing our language, knowing our history, knowing our truth, but knowing our spiritual understanding of how this was hijacked, how it was stolen, how it was prefabricated, how it was bastardized, how we were lied to, we began to literally heal ourselves from the inside out. Now, Amadeus Christ, who's an incredible filmmaker, and he has two spiritual films that we must have access to. One is Out of Darkness, which is available on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. You can stream it. And he's got a new film coming out called Heavy as the Crown. He says, the God described in the Bible as a jealous, wrathful, egotistical murderer who condones slavery, has a favorite chosen people, which makes him a bigot, racist over all others, and who never makes mistakes, but had to destroy mankind because ... He sits on his throne in the sky, judging the world, the same world he tells you not to love, but then he goes and kills his own child because he loves the same world so much. The creation of Christianity by the Roman Empire. Remember, this is what Dr. Obadele Cambone was talking about, being a Roman provincialist. This whole Christianity, all of it came from this crazy, sick European Roman concept. A composite of African folklore and Kemetic spirituality was for political purposes only and used strictly for European domination of the world. Religion, family, is a control mechanism. It's to control your thinking. It's to control your children and your children's children in perpetuity. I don't have to go into your home or into your community and use guns and fire and spears and torture anymore. Now I can just train you with your mind, because if I can give you scripture, if I can tell you about Jesus and make you believe in that, then I will be able to guide you to your entire life and run you and rule you. Why? Because you don't know your original history. So let's look at this European invasion that Dr. Walter Williams teaches us. He says the Greeks and the Romans came to Egypt as pagans and heathens without any gods or spiritual awareness, bringing with them an agnostic, physical, brutal, uncivilized, savage lifestyle, void of the knowledge of the Creator. He goes on to say on page 73, he says, before the Greeks and Romans, who are one in the same, entered Egypt, they had no god, goddess, or gods, nor did they have any alphabet. Remember, Medu-Neter is our original language, so they didn't have an alphabet. We taught them everything. They were instead an agnostic, physical, psychopathic, illiterate, uncivilized European race of people who were not in tune with the spiritual rhythm of the universe. So this is radically important to understand as we talk about and look at these symbols of slavery versus what our original Trinity and creator and creation looks like on the right hand side, right? So unfortunately, and this is very painful, we're more familiar with the symbols of slavery on the left than we are with our actual cosmology and spirituality on the right of Aset, Asar, and Haru, the mother or the Holy Spirit, the Father, which is the God consciousness, and the Son, will of the Father. That's where the Trinity comes from, and they took it and they bastardized it. We are and created the original spiritual, the original and only spiritual system, and they took it and bastardized it and used it against us, and have been ever since, and used that to justify their slavery and their torture in the world. So what happens to the African mind when their God and deities are taken away? Duddy Bookman says that we all should throw away the image of the white man's God, who is pitiless, and listen to the voice for liberty that speaks in all our hearts. This is shocking, family, but we're going to really get deep into this. So what is the first frequency African? Dr. Walter Williams says that you were born with a divine spiritual birthright, and that divine spiritual birthright was given to you at the same time of your birth by the she-he creator, right? Because we understand the creator is the divine feminine and the divine masculine as one, right? That's the one in the many. So the one breaks off, becomes the many, and the many becomes and searches for the one. So we have to understand that the creator used our mothers and fathers in human form as instruments to bring us forth in this human form. So that is why we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So now let's go into part two in terms of this concept called whiteness that the European fabricated, created, and colonized our minds. Now, all Africans and African Americans are epigenetically and intergenerationally born into the trauma bond of whiteness. Now, sociologist Ruth Frankenberg says that whiteness is a location of structural advantage, of race privilege. Secondly, it is a standpoint, a place from which white people look at themselves, at others, and at society. And thirdly, whiteness refers to a set of cultural practices that are usually unmarked and unnamed. Now, I say, Rev Shock says, whiteness is a psychopathic disease of the European mind that has created a systematic, deliberate act of racialized domestic terrorism. Dr. Joy DeGruy, when I had a conversation with her and we talked about this concept of white privilege, privilege comes from legal ethics. It means private law. That's what privilege means. A particular benefit, advantage, or immunity enjoyed by a person or class of people that is not shared with others. It's also a power of exemption against or beyond the law. It is not a right, but rather exempts one from the performance of a duty, obligation, or liability. And we're going to get really deep into this, family. So I even have some video to show you. Dr. Jacqueline Badalore, in her book, Birth of a White Nation, says whiteness is endemic to American history and life today. Everyone in the U.S. and also around the world has a relationship to it, regardless of the racial category which one identifies. Just as both men and women live life interacting with the deeply embedded forces of white male patriarchy, the same is true of whiteness. Just as patriarchy was imposed by law, so too was whiteness. So where did this thing, whiteness, come from? Let's go into it. The concept of whiteness was created between 1664 and 1681 here on this soil in America, where white people were invented as a matter of law. There's no history in the Virginia colonies. There's no history book written where Europeans refer to themselves as white. White is American made, part of that colonialism and that sickness that went even a step further in the psychopathic and sociopathic thinking of the Europeans. So colonization created whiteness. Now, where were white people invented? Now, 1681 is called miscegenation or anti-miscegenation laws marked the birth of white as a legal race under United States law in response to Bacon's Rebellion. I'm going to go into that history so you can understand exactly what brought us to this PowerPoint presentation in this lesson today, where the white privileged elite or 1% created a third class to insulate and protect white men from second-class rebellion and retribution. So Bacon's Rebellion was an armed rebellion in 1676 by Virginia settlers led by Nathaniel Bacon against the rule of Governor William Berkeley. About 1,000 Virginians of all classes and races rose up in arms against Berkeley, attacking Native Americans and chasing Berkeley from Jamestown, Virginia, and ultimately torching the capital. Sounds familiar? That's why they are so upset. Now, it was the first rebellion in the American colonies in which discontented frontiersmen took part. This is very important to understand in a pinpoint of what happened to us and how this, why they had to create a divide and conquer strategy to defeat this situation from ever happening again, so that 1%, the richest of the rich in the Virginia colonies, were able to create something that allowed them never to be challenged again. A similar uprising in Maryland took place later that year. The alliance between indentured servants and Africans, meaning the unity, they bonded and disturbed the ruling class, who responded by hardening the racial caste of slavery in an attempt to divide the two races from subsequent united uprisings with the passage of the Virginia Slave Codes of 1705. Now, let's understand there were three laws, family, that there was a cluster of anti-miscegenation law, but there were three laws that brought us to where we are today in this conversation that we're having right now. Number one, a person of African descent could no longer vote or run for office. Number two, a person of African descent could not own guns or gunpowder. So the African male could not protect his family and could not feed his family. And at that point, the African male became a boy. And so we can see epigenetically right now that why some of our African men, either on the continent or any part of the world, sometimes have what's called arrested development and act like boys as opposed to acting like men, because it was stripped away. And over 500, more than 500 years, this strip of not allowing the first African male, the first king, the first god to be a man, stripped us of that, and we became boys. Number three, which is the most diabolical, is a person of African descent could not take any legal action against this new false racial construct called humanity. So here in America, we see the police killed an unarmed black person, a male usually, and nothing happens. They completely get off. This is the intergenerational and the epigenetic aspect of that started back in anti-miscegenation. Here's the problem. Europeans don't know that they're not white. Europeans don't know that whiteness and white people were invented. They don't know this. And as a result, they act as if. And so nobody knows its history because this was in place 100 years. 100 years, family, before the U.S. Constitution was written. 100 years before the first meeting of Congress here in America. So this is where the sickness comes from when we see Jefferson owning slaves, when we see Lincoln saying that he abhors equal power to Negroes or to Africans. It's because 100 years prior to their birth, this sickness was already in place. And now here we are in the situation that we're in. In order to be an American citizen, family, absolutely, you had to be white. So, listen to this.
So you had some 100 years for this idea called white people and this new social order that tossed people of African and tribal descent into the bottom of colonial society.
Third class, as you call it.
Absolutely. And for those ideas and that social order to be integrated within the social structures of colonial society had 100 years for all of that muddling to occur and to expand beyond the colonies of Maryland and Virginia, which are the epicenter for the invention of white people. So by the time of the American Revolution and when Congress first met for the first time to create all of the laws of the new nation was in 1790. And they, in establishing founding law, of course, had to deal with immigration and naturalization. And they determined that in order to naturalize a U.S. citizen, which is the only route to citizenship when you're not born in a country, and they determined that the only route to citizenship required that you be white.
Understand that this is part of the sickness that we're dealing with right now, that those laws didn't come off the books until 1952. So that's not that far or long ago, and we're still dealing with the intergenerational epigenetic effects of that. Now, anti-miscegenation laws or miscegenation laws were laws that also enforce racial segregation at the level of marriage and intimate relationships by criminalizing interracial marriage and sex between members of different races. So white men, this new false designation of humanity, white men would not have any competition to white women and gave white men access to all women, including our African women, permanently separating Black African men from Black African women. So all of these things can be traced back when we talk about this metaphysical concept of cause and effect. We talk about Sankofa going back to come forward. All of this basically means this is the cause of the effect. When we look at how our Black men or African men are acting up and acting out today, we can trace it back to what happened to them. This is why nothing is wrong with you. Something happened to you. Nothing is wrong with Black men. Something happened to Black men. Nothing is wrong with Black women. Something happened to Black women. And this is the science and the history of what happened and how we can understand it. And we're going to talk about how we can decode it and make sense of this. There are only two reasons, family, that white people were invented as a matter of law. And Dr. Badalore is going to teach us exactly that in her own words, which is why I wanted to bring this to you so you can understand that this is not my opinion. This is actual law that was written before the U.S. Constitution.
Well, yeah. Okay, so here, let me just sum up what the story, this historical information reveals to us about whiteness, white people as they were invented. We were invented. So we know that white people were built upon the idea that the British elite had of themselves as white, as Christian, as freeborn, and as deserving of rights and privileges from which others can be denied. So that you learn through an analysis of the laws through which they created and asserted this entirely new group of humanity called white people. And then the historical context reveals to us that white people were invented to divide. We have served that purpose ever since.
Wow, that's
We
a very powerful statement.
divide humanity, and the flip side of that is to protect and ensure the interests of the 1%.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason white people exist.
Now, you heard it right there, family. You probably have never heard this before. It's probably a shock to your system, which is why the science that I bring to the community is just that. We got to understand the history. In order to properly engage in Sankofa, we have to know not just our own history, we must know their history so that we can then understand how to decode it, how to decentralize it, how to circumvent it. Now, let's go into this, what I call the whiteness equation. So, notice that Battle Lord talked about Christianity. So whiteness was backed by Christianity. There was no such thing as police or law enforcement back in this time. And so as a result, it was the Christian church that enforced the laws of anti-miscegenation and put this forth. And so when white privilege was created, when whiteness was created, white people were invented. It gave them a level of privilege and power of the people. That's Dr. Peggy McIntosh's scholarship. When white privilege is challenged, it creates white fragility, which is Dr. Robin DiAngelo's scholarship. And then when white fragility is challenged, it creates white rage, which is Dr. Carol Anderson's scholarship. And so that's why the equation is WP plus WF equals WR. White privilege plus white fragility equals white rage. And so when we see white people storming the Capitol of the United States, when we see white people bombing and blowing up and killing Black people that are trying to be ambitious and move their lives forward, they're in this rage. When we see the lynching, when we see the Proud Boys, the KKK, when we see these supremacist groups, that is white rage because they are fragile and their privilege is being challenged by the creator's original creation, which is African people. So it's not that, and we talked about this perhaps when I was on before, it's not that family that white people, these white phony European people are waking up and seeing more Black people. What's actually happening is they're waking up and seeing less of themselves because they're dying off as a race. This is called the birth dearth. And so it's not that they're seeing more Africans. We've always been here and will always be here. We have always been here, but they're seeing less of themselves and they're losing that privilege, that power. And so that creates a fragility. And then that fragility, because they are from the ice, they are not civil. And so, of course, from fragility, it would naturally make sense that they would move from fragility to rage. Dr. DiAngelo says white people in North America live in a social environment that protects and insulates them from race-based stress, which is white privilege. This insulated environment of racial protection builds white expectations for racial comfort, while at the same time lowering the ability to tolerate racial stress, leading to what she refers to as white fragility. Now, Dr. Carol Anderson says this. She says, it became clear to me that the presence of Black people was not the trigger for white rage. It was the presence of Black people with ambition, the presence of Black people with drive, the presence of Black people with aspirations, the presence of Black people who achieve. It's the presence of Black people who refuse to accept their subjugation, the presence of Black people who demand their rights. That's the trigger of white rage. And this society has therefore punished Black resilience and Black resolve. One of the most powerful statements ever written. I just absolutely love this goddess. She is absolutely amazing. Please go and get the book White Rage. It's necessary. It is a must. Our children must read it. Our parents must read it. Everyone, we need to put together groups and just literally go chapter by chapter and break down exactly what happened to us. Nothing's wrong with us. This is what happened to us. Now, what you have to understand is that you can't get along with whiteness. A lot of us try to get along with whiteness. You can't get along with whiteness. You can only go along with whiteness, which by default creates a level of virus in us where we become sick from being sick around sick people. So we're not sick people. We're sick from being captured, corralled, and controlled by sick people. So you can't get along with these people. You can't negotiate. You can't get it right. You have to either go along or you have to go back into your original African state and recognize that because of what white is and why it was created, why it was invented, there's no such thing as a good white person. Now, here's what Dr. Runoko Rashidi tells us. He says, for hundreds of years, we were told that we were ugly, worthless, stupid, incapable, incompetent, uncivilized, and unworthy of respect. That's the lie, right? A lot of this we have internalized and we see the results all around us. That's epigenetics. Now, hard though it may be, we must turn all of that around. We must look deep within, though it may take generations, and see the God in us. I'll also say as us. Ultimately, this is our path to empowerment, to our empowerment and our return to greatness. Ashe. So the system's biggest fear is Black people and Black intelligence, Black empowerment, Black progression, self-esteem, and economic independence, strong Black masculinity, and Black love. That's what creates white rage, right? So we have to understand nothing's wrong with us. This is what happened to us. Now, let's get into part 3. But before I do, Dr. Tata, do you have any questions or comments moving forward from what I just shared? Going once, going twice?
Just go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Now let's go into genetic memory of trauma bonding. And let's talk about this understanding of epigenetics and genetic memory so that we have a base understanding, because sometimes these are big words and big concepts, but it needs to be unpacked. So epigenetic changes can switch genes on or off. What we currently think, say, do, or what is currently being done to Black people right now will create new epigenetic tags that will infect, affect, and effect the next generation in perpetuity. Dr. Luann Brizendine is a neuroscientist, a neuropsychiatrist, who is both a researcher and a clinician. She is the author of 2 New York Times best-selling books, The Female Brain and The Male Brain. So let's listen to what she has to say about epigenetics.
Some people have not heard of epigenetics, don't understand what it is, why it's so radically important to know, and why it's such a big discovery, because it's now beginning to really fill in some of the spaces that exist where we say, I don't know, what was that person thinking? Now we can begin to understand how we all got here, particularly this thing called America.
So I think that just to kind of put it in a nutshell simply in terms of what this big fancy word called epigenetics is. Epi means on top of, and of course genetics means the gene. So we all get these little epi decorations on top of our genes as from the time we're born till the time we die. It's kind of new little decorations that come from things that are environmentally induced, like the pollution or the environment we live in, or the nutrition we have or don't have, or the abuse or comfort and support of our parents or the lack thereof, and or the violence in our community, the unsafety, the fear versus the safety. All of those things in our environment decorate our gene in this epigenetic category. Why that's important, not just to us as an individual, which of course it is, why that's really important is that it's been discovered that this epigenetic declaration can be passed on for 3 generations. So those things that say you or I got from traumas in our childhood, traumas in our growing up, in our environment, our lack of nutrition or good nutrition, or these things, or schooling, education, fear versus all the other good things for comfort. These things are actually like little marks all over our genome, and we pass it on to our children, and then they pass that on to their children. So that's the general concept. It's a huge body of research and science right now, and new things are being discovered every day about that. So that's just what that word means.
So family, understand that at the time that I did this interview with Dr. Luann Bresendine, which was probably about 5, maybe even 6 years ago, new research has come out to understand that epigenetics now goes back 14 generations. 14 generations is about 350 years. So we can really begin to understand, again, what this Sankofa looks like going back to come forward, what cause and effect really is, and that we can start to quantify and qualify what means what I say when I say that nothing is wrong with Black people, something happened to Black people. Now, let's talk about this concept called trauma bonding, because here's what has happened also as a result of this trauma that has been inflicted upon our people. It is a cycle. Trauma bonding is a cycle of physical or emotional abuse that creates a strong attachment between an abused person and their abuser, reinforced by periods of love and affection, and then periods of devaluation and emotional abuse. That is trauma bonding. It's also called capture bonding. That's another term that can be used when you are captured. You develop Stockholm syndrome, and you start to align with the values of your captors, because you learn how to be helpless. You learn how to be hopeless. And so in order to eat, in order to live, and in order to move your life forward, you co-sign and co-op with those that are oppressing you. Now, trauma bondage, the concept is I hurt myself because I deserve it. When you have been in bondage, in trauma for so long, if the story is strong enough, if that lie that was taught to you, that white boy in the sky, the white boy in the boat, the white boy on the stick, that you are no good, you are born in sin, you are not close to God, you are the lowest form on earth. If that lie is well told, the victim of terror can also believe that he or she deserves it, created it, and has to endure it, and is a part of it. So this is the lie. This is what trauma bond looks like. This is how it manifests. So some of you are blaming yourselves, blaming your own people for their problems and challenges and ills. No, something happened to them. Something happened to you. Nothing is wrong with you. You are the highest force, idea, concept, and gestation of the Creator. There was a blunt psychological instrument that came into place and stopped the African from moving forward. Just as the Amu second frequency, went through the ice age and was froze for a period of time, when they came out, they captured, corralled, and controlled the dominant original population of people and froze us in time. So when they stole us, they did not just steal us, they stole our time and froze our time. And now we are blaming ourselves and victimizing ourselves based on the lie that was told to us in perpetuity. Dr. Cress Welsing says we're the only people on this entire planet who have been taught to sing and praise our demeanment. I'm a bitch, I'm a hoe, I'm a gangster, I'm a thug, I'm a dog. If you can train people to demean and degrade themselves, you can oppress them forever. You can even program them to kill themselves, and they won't even understand what happened. Are you understanding nothing's wrong with you? Something happened to you? Nothing's wrong with us. Something happened to us, family. Trauma bonding is loyalty to a person or white institutionalized racism, who is destructive. In order for the African and African American brain to cope with the trauma of whiteness, a part of the brain or the mind must split from reality and create a trauma bond. Guess what? That's called mental illness. So look at the mental illness in our community. It is due to the trauma bond and our association and proximity to whiteness. At the left-hand side, we see, I do this because I love you. And then the victim says, thank you. We look at the lower left-hand corner and the Virginian luxuries, where white European men now having access to black women, to African women, love them for a moment and then beat them at the same time. So this going back and forth, love, hate, this is trauma bond. It comes from domestic, it's a form of domestic violence, and it happens in our relationships every day. Some of us have been domestically violated, financially controlled and violated by either our husbands or wives, physically beaten by our husbands or wives, and we keep going back. The fact that we keep going back is the trauma, is the bond of that trauma. But it's the same relationship that we have with the Amu and second frequency. Our trauma bond to whiteness is consistent pattern of non-performance, hoping that institutionalized racism and whiteness will change. We can control white people. They just have to do better. That is the BS, that the blue sky that we have to understand will never happen. Yet we continue to believe and have faith. God is going to, the white boy's going to, on a stick, is going to come back and save us all. The promise to the contrary. You feel stuck because whiteness, institutionalized racism, keeps doing destructive things, but you believe there is nothing you can do about it, which is another blue sky about learned helplessness. This is what has happened to us. We have learned how to be helpless and hopeless. And we constantly are asking each other, what do I do? What do I do? How do I do it? What can I do? Where do I start? You start exactly where you are with what you have. And you start in your mind to rebel these concepts and ideas of this false understanding of what your creator is, and this false designation, false people of European ancestry called white people. When we understand, trauma survivors also can be extremely naive, even while being vigilant, right? So we can march, we can protest, but we're still naive, right? There's this is why they want us to protest peacefully. What that doesn't even make sense. How do you protest peacefully? It's a protest, damn it. The discernment and common sense have been impaired by living with secrets, denial, deceptions, and exploitation. And so over a period of time, this happens to us. And if you're not equal in power, then by definition, you're vulnerable. And that vulnerability is critical to trauma bonding. The misuse of power, which includes terror and seduction, induces fear, anxiety, and self-doubt, all critical aspects of traumatic activity. This is happening on the continent right now with many of your scholars and I guess presidents or kings and governments and what have you. This is all part of the trauma bond. Nothing is wrong with these black people, these black men and women. Something happened to them, causing them to act up and act out to harm their own people and harm their own kind. So let's look at these three levels of assimilation. First, you have to convert the individual, so to a domestic use, right? So I got a photo of a dog over there to understand this is how they see us. This is how they treat us. Next, you have to tame, especially by generations of slave breeding, to live in close association with second frequency Amu, or whiteness, institutionalized racism. You have to live as a pet or a work animal, creating a codependency so that the animal, or African American and African, loses its ability to know peace and live in a natural or nurturing environment. Let me ask you a question, fam. Do you know peace? When was your life ever peaceful? When did you ever have peace of mind? That's the question we have to unpack and answer. We'll talk about it at the end of this presentation as we're winding down. Number three, to cultivate, you have to adapt. You have to be cultivated by and beneficial to second frequency Amu. If you don't have a benefit or a value to a European, you are valueless. They only want to befriend you and be around you for what you can do for them, and not because you are just human, because they don't see you as human. They see you and treat you subhuman. as an animal, as such. So understand that is how we are domesticated. Nothing is wrong with us. Something happened to us. Now, let's end this by going through the characteristics. When you try to change them, institutionalized whiteness, racism, by protesting, kneeling, trying to kneeling them into thinking they become less destructive, hoping they will stop their institutional racism and become a non-abuser, that's a child. You are suffering from arrested development. You are naive. That doesn't work. Clearly, did it work? No, it did not work. Because after that, we had George Floyd. After that, we could go into this understanding that you keep having repetitive, damaging fights with this group. Macro and microaggressions, race-based, racial battle fatigue, which is RBF, race-based traumatic stress injury and violence with whiteness, institutionalized racism, and nobody wins. Right? This keeps occurring because you keep hoping and thinking that there'll be some good white people out there. There's good cops and there's good people in the world, yada, yada, yada. We keep doing this thing over and over again, expecting a different result. What happens when you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect a different result? You are deemed insane. They treat you and treat us like we're insane because there's a part of us, because of our trauma bond, that we seem unable to detach from them. Right? Even though you can't trust them or really don't even like them, but somehow, like that scene in Django Unchained with DiCaprio and the character Steven that Samuel L. Jackson plays. Oh my God, we got to help the white people. We got to save the white people. They're good white people. No, there's no such thing. But that is part of our psychosis of trauma bonding. When you try to leave them, when you try to leave whiteness, institutionalized racism, some, we call third frequency, will find yourself attracted to them to the point of longing for them. This is known as eroticized rage, even though it is going to destroy you. So we can go into that, and I can really unpack that. I had a conversation with Dr. Mathews Knowles, who is the father of Beyonce and Solange, and he went through this unpacking of his life. He wrote a book called Racism Through the Eyes of a Child, and what happened when he woke up and realized nothing was ever wrong with him, but a lot had happened to him. And so this is the science, and we're going to talk about eroticized rage later on in upcoming programs. And so when we understand that Nana Harriet Tubman says, I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves. This is the issue, is that if you don't know, when your mind is hijacked from the lie, you don't get out. Now you have to understand, I tell you this from the top, bottom, and both sides of my heart and being. Know that the African and African American is the original God, goddess, first frequency, period. End of story. Nothing you can do about it. So do these things right now. Learn how to play chess versus playing checkers. Now, I am doing live presentations on our Patreon. If you become a Patreon member, you will be getting access to live trainings that I'm going to be doing, where I can go really deep into unpacking these laws and these situations and what we can do about it, because it's taken 500,000 years to get here. It's going to take a couple of days at least for us to unpack this. So it's not something that I can say one thing and everything goes back to the way it's supposed to be. But you can also receive, when you become a Patreon member, you can also receive the PowerPoint presentation that you are witnessing today as a PDF and be able to download that. Again, you can also stream. If you don't have the ability to do that, you can go and stream all of this information. And nothing is wrong with Black people. Something happened to us. And you can listen to it in any of the streaming platforms that are available today. There's also a free affinity e-course that we offer at firstfrequency.com. The number one ST frequency, firstfrequency.com. And that's going to be powerful. And then practice frequency specificity on a daily basis and recite what we open up with. And that is, I am one with first frequency. I am one with the first thought idea. I am one with the firstborn people. I am one with the only one. Ashe, and so it is. Thank you, community. Thank you, Dr. Tata, for allowing me to present this information. Uncle Job Seneb family, Ashe, and so it is.
Wonderful. I don't know how to thank you. We are also thanking you for sharing this knowledge with the audience. And please, like we have heard, it's going to be taught and retaught and retaught, because these are all things and I don't know, issues that we've been born into. Now we're raising children into. Now the generation continues. How is the world going to function? How is Africa going to be liberated? How are Africans going to be themselves? Today we're struggling about uniting, building a united Africa. We're struggling about uniting even our own selves. But on daily basis, we are caught up in a kind of a situation that you keep asking yourself, what is actually going wrong? What is happening? Before you know, something is just there that it's not explicable. You can't understand. It's just above you. So in the quest for us as African people looking for all the solutions to our individual selves, to better our communities, our families, our lives, our continent, it's but obvious that no solution should be underlooked, no measure to free ourselves, for you to gain your birthright that was given to us by the creator of the universe and made you that way. So how on earth
You froze there.
blessed and rich, not only in human resources, in natural resources that the world keeps feeding on, but the people are just the most miserable people. It is high time that we discuss, we think, and then we begin to accuse one another. Oh, it's our leaders. No, oh, it's the system. Oh no, it's this. Oh no, these people are not right to do this. You know, we always justifying every
Sure.
step that we want to make. There's always going to be a setback point where we come back to say, no, it's because it's the main war, it's the patriarchy. No, it's because the women are not submissive enough. Oh no, it's because the women are becoming too Western. You know, we always justifying one step or the other in our private conflicts, in our general conflicts, us as a global people. If it is not us, it is our children. If it is not our children, it is our continent. If it is not our continent, it is just something there. You know, so we're all visionaries. We are all searching for our human right. I'm not talking about United Nations or laws and regulation. We're just talking about the invincible human right that is not physical, that would never be read in any court whether I'm right, I'm wrong, but the spiritual law of nature that is judging only you and me and the universe. So we want to thank you so very much, Rev, for this awesome presentation. And I think exactly like you said, why should even
It's
something
not.
be wrong with us?
Nothing is wrong with us. Never have been and never will be. And this information, the fact that it's coming forth at this particular time, is letting the community know and letting the African know that it's time for us to take our rightful seats back in as the original people. And we don't have to war. We don't have to go to war to do it. Nature is actually giving us great assistance right now. What we have to do is obey nature, what we originally did. And once we obey nature, and the beauty is, and this is going to sound oxymoronic, but the beauty is that we now have a genetic memory of trauma. We didn't have that before because we had never been terrorized or traumatized at that level, thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of years being on the planet. When the Amu came out of the caves, we then experienced trauma for the first time. And now that code of trauma is inside of us. We're bonded to that trauma, but now we know the language, the framework, and the context of what happened to us. And so now we will no longer allow anything, anyone to lie to us, to traumatize us, nor will we carry that on into our offspring. So part of this Sankofa cause and effect, going back to come forward understanding, is to look at what have we learned from this terrorism that we've been under for thousands of years. Well, now that that's genetically encoded in us, it makes us stronger. What happens when a virus enters our body? Our body attacks that virus, replicates that virus so that it can do what? Kill the virus. And then once that virus is duplicated and replicated, there's a memory of that virus. So when that virus tries to enter into the body again, it does not destroy or do any damage because we have already manifested how to destroy it. That is what this understanding, that's what this understanding, this language, this context, this framework, when we look at these PowerPoints, we look at these this history and start to unpack it, that is genetic coding, right? So it's a reverse of social engineering. The information becomes transformation, right? So the information that I try to bring transforms the African back to its original frequency, back to its original concept and idea. But if you don't know that, if you don't know that, you don't go in the world like that. But once you know it, it starts to go into your body and it starts to create new epigenetic tags and erode the epigenetic tags of poverty, of financial lack and limitation, of slavery, of oppression, suppression, depression, et cetera, et cetera.
Going back and and coming forward, like the Sankofa, it's very intriguing. Like we had Maponga Joshua on Sunday special, and there's some very pertinent points that he really put out there. Like until we really embrace our culture and go to who we are, and so that's the Sankofa that we're talking about. That we can move ahead. Now the issue that we also have to identify is what is our culture? When did it start? When did our history start? Because even when we're dealing with conflicts and the situation, we always take the colonial history from when slavery. But what is it? Who were we before this time? I think that should be one of the biggest history that we should go into. Not the history that starts with slavery and colonization, but the history before that, before those boundaries.
Well, you have to understand, Dr. Tata, that a lot of us, when we didn't know what we know now, we look at our ancient African history and say, well, hell, we failed. No, we didn't fail. We endured. So we have to change that code. We did not fail. We did not lose. We endured. They did not kill us off. We don't die, we multiply. We're still here. That's why there's a concept called white rage, because we will not submit. We will not be subjugated. We will not stop. This is why I say don't give up, don't let up, and don't shut up until the Creator takes you up. That is the indomitable spirit of the African. So we did not fail. We endured. Once we understand that, yes, we got wounds, we've got scars, we've got mental illness, we got psychological issues, but we're still here. We are still here. We're still the original people and always will be and always will have that original story. No one else, no other ethnicity coming after the African has that story. We did not fail. We endured.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, because it's very relevant, us viewers and followers and wherever you're watching us on this program, to understand this very statement that you've made. We did not fail, because that's one of the key points why we keep blaming ourselves, why we even give up being Black, why we want to change, why we admire and just sleep on. Anything better. We cannot develop Africa. Look at all the roads, look at the poverty, look at the hunger, look at the diseases that they keep feeding us with, and look at it. the people. Look at the man. It's not. You said something. You said something, Rev. I would like you to come back to that again, even before the presentation. You said that we don't grow up till.
We don't go up until we grow up, right? So we have to have a certain level of information to know what happened to us. Otherwise, we keep looping. Like you just said about slavery, that's where they basically intersect and say this is where, African history began in slavery. No, but if you only know that, then you will only have two options, and that is to be a Negro, a good get along Negro, or the nigga out here in these streets. Those are the only two options you have when you don't know your story, don't know your history, and don't know their story and don't know their history. So you go along to get along, and you become a detriment to your own ethnic group of people.
I have to pick this call.
You got to grow up in our mindset.
I'm picking up the first call coming in from Dr. James Small. Yes, I guess you're watching the show. And
oh my God, is that Baba Smalls?
Yes.
Hey, Baba, I love you.
The show is on now. Let me go and watch the show.
No, it's not finished. Reverend Philippe's show is on, and he's so crazy excited that you're watching and you're calling in. We're talking about nothing happened to us, but something else. And he's been mentioning you and all the great scholars out there.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, thanks, Brother Philippe. Thanks, Brother Philippe.
I love you. I love you. You're my Baba.
With a sister out in Washington State.
Okay.
Yeah, they're talking about you. So go ahead with the show.
All right.
Yeah, I'm going to come back in on it now. All right, my dear.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Prof.
Okay. Now my day is set. I'm good. I am good now. Baba Small called it. Yeah, I'm good. I'm great. That's it. That's all I need. Y'all have me back in the car, boy. I'm telling you what.
So it's like
Baba says this, and I repeat it over and over again, and we need to repeat it and put it on our walls as affirmation that the African are spiritual. The African are spiritual beings having a human experience. The Europeans are searching for a spiritual experience. That's a direct quote from Baba Smalls. And when we understand and unpack that, we understand the power of who we are, that we already have the power. That's why I say we did not fail, we endured. And so because we are spirit, made flesh, we are spirit from the Creator, made flesh. How can we be defeated? We can be challenged, which we have been, but we can't be defeated. Do you understand that? Because the Creator created this first. Whatever the Creator created, whatever the original is, that is known as fidelity. We have fidelity. We are the first of the first. That means that whatever the Creator created the best of the best, what Dr. John Henry Clark refers to. So now we're going to get challenged. We'll get beat up. We'll not get knocked down. All of these things that we now look at historically, but we're still here. We endured. We're the most durable people. So you cannot die. You can only multiply. The fact that we have access to our ancestors qualifies and quantifies that. So it's a beautiful thing when you truly wake up to knowing who you are, and that you're on the right side of the law of the Creator because you are African. I am proud to be African. I am proud to be melanated, pigmented, deeply pigmented. I'm honored by that, because if I was not that, I would have a level of cognitive dissonance that would be maddening sometimes, and it would have me perhaps climbing up the Capitol walls. It would have me in white rage because I would be so fragile, and I would not understand why this is happening to me. See, the Amu, second frequency, European, blames Black people or African people for their problems. No, we didn't make you this way. Nature did. So your issue is not with Africans or Africa. It's with nature itself.
Please, all those that are calling in, call using the WhatsApp. You're calling direct, it's impossible for me to pick the call. Otherwise, I'm going to cut the show. So please call using the WhatsApp number. I see you calling in. Call using the WhatsApp number. You're listening to me and you're hearing me, okay? Thank you very much. Just call the same number, but use WhatsApp, not your direct line. If not, we're going to wipe off the show, all right? So, yes, it is a great feeling to know to know these facts like an African. I mean, you feel I don't know, you just feel it. That's where your happiness starts from the truth. That's where your happiness starts from the reality of just knowing that you are this. And that's freedom, as a matter of fact. Right? Hello?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My name is Amaro Dihampo. I came across this program. I'm very, very happy to listen to you guys. What you guys are discussing about is freedom. It's all about freedom.
Absolutely.
I do really appreciate the discussion because it's a discussion of inside, not outside. And you guys are doing really, 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 really great work. I'm loving it because
I share.
as Africa, we really need to this is only message that can free us. I don't think otherwise. This type of message is where our freedom lies because we are dead inside. We are just walking as a human being outside, but we are really a dead person, people.
Absolutely.
A dead race inside, and we become less than animal. Not even they said we are. We are really we have become less than animal.
Absolutely.
You can count 2% is not enough to give a pass mark. You know, as long as majority of us are less than animal, that's who we are. We have to accept that we are animal and cry and they scream, then we wake up because there's something waking up spirit when you accept you are faulty, when you accept what people call you stupid, and when you look at your inside, you accept, man, I'm really a stupid man. This brings healing. You have to cry for this because you accept. Then you start working on it to go away from what they call you.
Absolutely.
And become what you see yourself as. I found out that what they said about reincarnation, our big brother there said something that we are not defeated, and our great parents, they did very well. We are still here.
Yes.
Some people call it reincarnation. We are here. We can never be defeated, he said. So if we're gonna be defeated, no race, no human being, no group of people things that are done against us, that will be done against them, and they will still be talking like this, like you guys are discussing.
Absolutely.
It's never done anywhere.
Yes.
Showing full well we are like the ground, we are like the soil, we are like the sun, we are like the trees.
Yes.
To finish us, the world will finish. The planet, if they think they can destroy us, as soon as they destroy us, that's the end of the world, the planet Earth. But because they cannot do this, we're gonna take our position back by keep on preaching this gospel of gospel of redemption, gospel of truth that you guys have brought up. We cannot wake up at once. We all can never wake up at once. But those people that are already waking up, we keep on extending their hands to our people. But I will suggest this message has to go to African soil. Because that is where the foundation of all this mess we are in take place. You know, it can't just be on the air, on internet, on American. No. It has to go to the ground to the soil of African continent. Like the people will be seeing you, and you will be discussing this with them. You'll be telling them this.
Absolutely.
Yes. I so much believe this is not something on the internet. Most people don't have the money to stick to buy data and spending data listening to you guys Yes, most people don't have it. And those people that cannot afford those data is the people that needed this message most. You know, we have to go underground. I myself, yeah, I'm very, 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 very happy to listen to you guys, knowing full well that we're still living here. We are the spirit, like our senior brother said. Nobody has the power to eliminate us in this planet Earth. They can play all the games. People said something. I'm from Biafra, originally from Biafra. And people said something. When you are fighting with me and you hold me on the ground, you are not winning because I'm there with you. You know what I mean?
Yes.
If you let me, I get up. But when you hold me on the ground, which means you are not going anywhere too. You
Yes.
know what I mean? As soon as you let me go, then we'll fight keep on. So they're holding us on the ground, which means they are not winning. You know? Yeah. So I'm not going to take much of you guys' time, but we keep on keeping it on because I so much believe this is the only message that can free our people. I don't believe in their Christianity or any religion because we have our own problem too that our grandfather teach us about their own religion, culture. Some of them are destroying us. Most of the culture they taught us about is killing us too. That we have to wake up from that well as that one as well and focus on this kind of teaching. After that, then we'll have to go back and find that culture that suits us as people that are living now. Because one thing I believe so much, I cannot say everything my grandfather did was wrong. At that time, it may be right in their eyes, and they did it. But my job now is to take the ones that suits me and throw away the ones that doesn't suit me. My children, my grandchildren can do the same thing on their own time. So we cannot take, once we are screaming and crying about what Europeans did to us, there is things that our people as well did to us. But no more, we don't need it as of now. There is a lot of shit that they call it culture. It's man-made, it's made up, man-made all those things, you know, and their own time to serve them, for them to benefit or for them to have power. We can use it on this our own time. If we try it, you found out that it doesn't suit us. So we need to go back once we're finishing with European ones. At the same time, we'll be talking about our own. You know that the wrong they did to us. You know what I mean? So that is my contribution, and I have to say again, I'm very, very happy for you guys what you guys are discussing this morning. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
I do appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for calling. Yes, thanks. Yep. I know our dear sister and queen from Munich, you were trying to call in, so you can call. The line is open. I mean, when the other one is talking, we have to listen. So the lines are free. You can call. Reverend Shock is here, and yes, you just broke what they call, you broke the egg, and you're removing some very pertinent thing. Do you think that what would end if we really don't go into this? Would we solve the political crisis, the leadership, the wars, unstoppable wars? That also we know that the hands of the invisible is always there, but they push all the blames to our leaders. They push our leaders against us and put us against them. Wow.
Yeah, it's the quintessential divide and conquer strategy. That's how you do a coup. That's how you control a country. Dr. Ericana Shiambori Kwao has been on your program many times to teach us how and why Africa was chopped up into multiple countries so that it could be controlled. And this is absolutely insane what they've done, but it's breaking. Now, the other thing that we have to understand is there's a reason why they don't want us to read, why they don't want us to have knowledge and wisdom. There's a reason for that. So how do you break a system? You become more knowledgeable than the people who develop the system, because the beauty about being the original people is that everything that they do, they stole from us. So we have a first memory. We have a first memory. They don't have a first memory. So that first memory, that's Sankofa, that's cause and effect. Baba Smalls refers to it as African sacred science, metaphysics, Dogonic astrophysics, Dogonic thinking. That's a first memory. So we have to tap into that first memory. And once we're all in that first memory frequency, then we can completely decode, deconstruct, and decolonize ourselves first. And then individually, we start to spread that to the collective. And that's how it's done. We've already won this, because if you understand Dogonic thought, if you understand Dogonic astrophysics, quantum physics, that you can't have a problem without the solution. And so the solution to our problem already exists. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the problem or the challenge. So we've already won. We just have to now move into consciousness. Like we said earlier in the PowerPoint presentation, Barbara Hillary said that it's the colonization of our mind that was more detrimental than the actual slavery.
All right.
Hello, my sister.
Yes.
My sister. How are you, my sister? Oh, please. I would just like to say hello to Brother Quaco and tell him I have things that he could probably use for renovating houses, new German equipment. And I'm sending a container. I'm sending a container in about a month over there.
Did you want to talk to me, because we're live? You're calling on the live program. Are you following the show?
Oh, I'm sitting here I'm talking on the phone.
Okay. No, then let's talk later, because you're calling live on the show. Sorry.
I want to, can I talk to him?
Who you? Yes, you. To whom? Sorry. No, the guest on the show is Reverend Philippe Shock. Maybe you're watching the past show. Oh, sorry, no, we are live now on this one. Sorry, so call later.
Okay, my sister, please, I call you. Please, I have to tell you something, Brother.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry for that interruption. I'm very sorry. You know, this is production. Rev, it happens a couple of times because people watch the shows when we produce. And she's now watching the show with Maponga on Sunday and thinking that is him that is live. So we're sorry for that. Yeah, but it's okay. Go ahead.
That's wonderful. Ashe.
Yeah. Good. So I think we've learned a lot, and we're still learning a lot. Now, how do we start? A lot of us are saying
you start by repeating this show, right? So what I want the family to do is to watch this show at least 5 times. Go through each slide, each PowerPoint, each piece, until you are almost able to repeat it. Because once you're able to encode yourself with the information and then be able to repeat it, you are now removing the epigenetic tags of ignorance and installing the epigenetic tags of genius. So that is how we do it: repetition, bombardment, and saturation. Watch the program over and over again until you learn those 3 laws of anti-miscegenation. African was not allowed to vote or run for office. An African was not allowed to own guns or gunpowder. An African wasn't allowed to sue or take legal action against white people. Once you learn this and are able to regurgitate it, and then it becomes at the cellular level. Now you have epigenetic tags of power, because when whiteness shows up in your space, you will be able to recognize it, you will be able to defeat it, you will be able to circumvent it, because you have knowledge and power that the Amu does not have, because not only are you first frequency, you have a first memory.
Okay, But this is quite interesting, particularly when you say white did not exist. Of course, we begin to even think that the white people that we see. So this whiteness of a system is a creation.
It was absolutely a creation to divide and conquer and to dominate. And what I have come to realize is I have stopped using the term white supremacy. It's not white supremacy. You know what it is? It's white consolidation.
Okay.
White people or Europeans have consolidated and have contrived and have communicated and have cooperated with one another. That's all this is: consolidation and cooperation. That's what it is. And it looks supreme, but it's not supreme. Think about the opposite of what happened to us. We're not consolidated in unity as thinking. We don't have a first frequency thought, right? So we're not unified yet. We will be. And we are in spirit, but not in the physical social realm. And there's not a conversation or a community where all is one. That's the difference. So there's nothing supreme. It's just that there's a consolidation and a conservation where they got together and say, this is what we're going to believe. This is what we're going to do. And so whiteness always centers back to the one, to that second frequency. It always consolidates and goes back. That's what we have to do. So you have to be smart enough to reverse engineer this information to understand there's nothing supreme about an idea that they created and invented. That's not supremacy. That's not supremacy. It's a mechanism of survival, but it's an agreement that all of these psychopathic Europeans coming out of the ice agreed to and consolidated together. So it's not white supremacy, it's white consolidation.
Okay, let me pick up this call. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Dr. Susan. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, it's my first time calling, and I want to tell Dr. Reverend Philippe, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I had wanted to add to your illustrious meeting that I have been on a journey to it's like we have to really have a label that we put ourselves under, or our swearing for the Black nation. Well, mine is I swear loyalty to the Black skin and patriotism to Africa. And I try to make it something short that everyone can say, even to the basic level, to the highest level. And that's what I have to say, Dr. Philippe.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That's why I call it first frequency, Pan-Africanism, first frequency of oneness. That's who we are and what we are. We have to all be under that same page, under that same frequency, and know who we are and know what we are. Once we know that, then we'll know what to do.
Okay. Like decoding the systems, like I pay allegiance to a flag. I pay allegiance to,
Exactly. Well, it would Mapanga. I just love him to pieces. I just love his scholarship. He's an amazing scholar, and shout out to him. He's really helping us decode and remove this this imaginary white boy on a stick. I mean, it's absolutely amazing what happened when we were stolen and captured and corralled. It took generations, if you will, to beat the original God out of us. and replace it with their white European false deity. This is something that has to be addressed, and it has to stop. It's also something that we have to challenge our current ministers, our current churches and synagogues and places where we worship. We have to challenge that and give them the right information. Some of them don't know. Most of them don't know. Most of, I would have to honestly say, most Europeans and even Africans in high government don't know the information that I just shared with you. They don't know. And so if you don't know, you loop within the information that you have. That is known as a psychological lexicon. Psychological lexicon is the vocabulary that you have stored in your mind of experiences that you've had in life and education that you've had in life. So if you have a limited psychological lexicon and you don't know this information, you're going to loop within that information. So it's analogous to running on a treadmill and actually thinking you're going somewhere. You're moving, but you're not proceeding. Because you're not going anywhere, but you're running, but you're still standing still. And so that's why this information is shocking, because Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman teaches us we are the thinkers who think the thought that make the thing. That's how we manifest. And so we have to get that original information in to move ourselves forward. We have to expand our psychological lexicon. We have to expand our psychological vocabulary and learn what we need to know so that when life happens, when whiteness happens, and it will, that we are no longer a victim to it, we become victorious to it. And that is, now, there is something that is inside all of us, even though it may be somewhat dormant, but there's a reason why we keep waking up every morning. There's a reason why Black people keep being born and being the dominant species, melanated species in the world. There's a reason for that. All we have to do is connect to that reason. Once we understand that, that we are undefeatable, that is what makes us who we are. Now, once we understand that, then we have to get the education and knowledge, like we just shared, on understanding the laws, how they think, how they were created, understand, overstand, understand what has occurred. And at that point, the illusion then begins to break. We no longer feel guilty for saying white boy on a stick or imaginary white boy in the sky, right? Because we know that that's the lie. That's the lie. And so when we stop living the lie, the truth is already there. Dr. Wade Noble says, you know, it's kind of like when you turn on the light, the darkness knows exactly what to do.
He's coming on the show on Saturday.
Wonderful. Love me some Baba Noble.
The other Saturday, yes. Dr. Wade Nobles is coming on the Pan-African Daily TV. And we're so excited. We're so excited.
You should be. That's the dude.
We are so excited. Even Dr. Leonard Jefferson would come again. Dr. Obati Shaka is coming again this week in all this package of wisdom and knowledge. Absolutely. But tomorrow we have another great scholar that is coming for the first time. Is a professor that is born in the DRC. I think you know him. You must know him. And he contributed to write the general history of Africa, you know, under this UNESCO. He's called Professor Obanga Theophile. Professor Obanga. Yes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Yes. Excellent.
He just initiated and founded the first Pan-African university. I mean, I'm not talking about the AU structural, AU, EU, Pan-African universities that we have. No, this one is this exactly what you're talking about. And when the brother called in, it was just something that I like. And the main reason why we're bringing it onto the show is to get, you know, this kind of knowledge to be taught on that university. So we have a space already. It's incredible. We know, I think 5 head of states were at the inauguration this year, and the Pan-African head of states that we know, probably those that were in absentia at the elections. Yes, but Professor Obanga is coming on tomorrow, and his topic is going to be general history of Africa and scientific culture and history of humanity. And Professor James Small described him as the greatest historian, of African past history. And he was even the one that, gave us the contact and the access to him, because this is one of the scholars that accompanied Cheikh Anta Diop, on his, the first ever series, and he's still alive. And so we cannot just be so privileged.
That's going to be historic. I can't. I'm going to be watching that one.
You would have to watch it. You would have to watch him, because you also need to get him on the Philippe show.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, I work with you all the time, so we work together in unison. So we definitely share each other's content and knowledge. That's for sure.
Of course. Yeah, so I'm just using this opportunity to invite our listeners and our followers that are watching us today that don't miss the program of this week. This week is fully booked, as you see. I already sent out, or Naisha put out that structure out there for us. And I want to give out a big shout out to my princess daughter, Naisha.
Hey, Naisha, we love you.
We love you so much.
Absolutely.
You know what?
And I need to have you, Dr. Tata, on my show. I just realized you haven't been on my platform yet. I need to have you to come on to talk about your show.
Talk to Naisha. Naisha is going to make that happen. Naisha is the one in charge of the bookings of Dr. Susan Tata. So talk to Naisha.
I'll put you down and figure out how to get you on my platform.
Naisha is going to do that. And one more thing.
That's your assignment.
Yes. One more thing, Reverend Shaw.
Yes.
The next little princess that will be sitting behind this camera, maybe not on the Susan Tata show, but on other things, would be Naisha. So I want to thank you, because you work there.
Yes. I'm finally, she's coming into her own. This is wonderful. I'm loving it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for loving her up too. That's a beautiful thing. She calls you Mama Tata.
Of course, we got to do that. Yeah, so it's been a wonderful time being with you here on these lectures. And like I said, we always classify some of the topics that we do. Some we just cherish ourselves and just love. And, some we cry because of the happenings of the continent.
Sure.
Most of it, some we argue, and and some we raise even our voices and like, what are they doing to us? But this kind of one that is just teaching us, like what you've been doing today, is we just sit and listen. And I think, like you're saying, the first thing that we should do is to decode. And for my own advice, and what I would like to say is, like, we just start from this moment and say, I know nothing. What about
an empty vessel? Absolutely. Come as an empty vessel, and then watch this program again and again and again until you begin memorizing the words, the language, the sequence, until it becomes encoded in you. That's how you expand your psychological lexicon. Otherwise, you're just looping. And you're not learning. So we need to go from looping to back to learning. And the only way to do that is through repetition, bombardment, and saturation.
Thank you very much. Thank you so very much, sir. Yeah, so one word for us before we separate with you.
Yes, I would like to repeat the affirmation of power. And I can I'll say it, and then I'll have you say it, and then for the community. I am one with first frequency. Now your turn.
I am one with yes, I'm one with first frequency.
I am one with the first thought idea.
I am one with the first thought idea.
I am one with the firstborn people.
I am one with the firstborn people.
I am one with the only one.
I am one with the only one.
Ashe, and so it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so
guys.
very much, sir.
Hotep
Yes.
community.
Yeah, we get in touch to know when you're available again for next. I mean, you're here
Absolutely. Every month I'll be with you.
So, yes. All right.
Looking forward to
So
it.
thank you. Yeah.
Hotep
Good night.
goddess.
See yourselves. Yeah. Thank you. Hello.
He just left.
He's still there. Go ahead. Ah, really?
Okay.
Wait. Hold on. I have to get somebody. I have to get somebody on the show. Get him in. Sorry. Oh my God, who is here?
Well, now you're seeing me if you look.
God, where is Reverend Shark?
I've got Nyasha on the phone. One wonderful show, Dr. Tata. Bye, Nyasha. Bye-bye.
Wow, what a surprise, Professor James Small.
Yeah.
What a surprise.
I was just enjoying you and Dr. Mathews.
What?
So, you see, I'm always surrounded by.
You have to come back. You have to come back.
Huh?
Baba, what's going on, Professor?
Hey, Doc. How you doing?
I am good. I am good. Love you.
I was just listening in. I didn't want to intrude.
You never can
No,
intrude.
you can never intrude.
You're the
We just
master
are
of
happy
masters.
to see you.
I appreciate you. I just want to take some time and let you do your thing, but I just wanted to give you some love and thank you for your support.
The wisdom was tight because you kept the wisdom simple. And the wisdom is tight. I like that concept of looping, so I'm gonna borrow that.
You got it, Doc. Absolutely,
yeah.
Professor. I appreciate that. Hotep community, Hotep Baba, Hotep Dr. Tata.
Hotep, that's Phil. And Dr. Susan, you're always on point. You have some of the greatest minds on your program. And I'm so looking forward tomorrow to see Dr. Obanga. I don't know if the African world know that they have a black God walking among them. That elder must be in his 80s now. But he's still building. Here he is helping to open with his president in Congo, Brazzaville, the first truly Pan-African university in the world. And it was only last 2 weeks ago that they made the launch. You see, that's a powerful thing. And you're going to give him an opportunity to talk to the world about it. That's an even more powerful thing.
Professor James, tell us a little bit. Just tell us a little bit about him, because I'm just so excited when he even accepted that he was coming. We don't know. Tell our audience, who is he? Who is this God?
This is an extraordinary son of Africa from Congo, Brazzaville, who worked with Cheikh Anta Diop for many, many years. They worked together to put together the general history of Africa, that UNESCO, the 8 volumes, which everybody should own, because these are African scholars for the most part that writes the general history of Africa. And we should buy those 8 volumes. That should be in the library of every home of an African person.
Mm-hmm.
He's the man who's with Cheikh Anta Diop. When they get UNESCO, I think in the 1970s, to say that the Egyptians were Black African people. See, this was signed, sealed, and delivered by Dr. Theophile Obanga and Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop. And the whole world know it, but they just kept it quiet. But this was ruled upon by the UN, by everybody saying, yes, the Egyptians were African people. Yes, they built the pyramids. They built the Sphinx. They built this whole civilization before they moved to the West Africa and to the Central and South Africa when the invading people came. Then he came to America and he was working with Obita Shaka and Dr. Wade Nobles at San Francisco State Africana Studies, where he became the chairman of the Africana Studies department at San Francisco State for a number of years. He also taught at Temple University with Dr. Molefi Asante in the PhD program on Africana Studies for many years, before returning back to Congo Brazzaville to help the president build this university. He has multiple books out on African history and African culture. So please make sure Nyasha research his books so you can have pictures of those books up. Many of them are in French, almost all of them are in French as well as English. So people can access them. Dr. Obanga is a son of the African soil 1000%. You know, he is totally an African man, you know, and tomorrow they'll see this great man.
Wow. Thank you so much, Prof, because it's you. I mean, without you, we wouldn't even have access to even know this kind of like, and really, I read his biography that he's described as the God, the living God of Africa. That's alive.
And when I told him about you and your show, he said, "Oh, of course." He didn't discuss. So I'm glad that you've set it up. I'm glad that he's there so he can talk to the world about this university. And when Dr. Nobles come on next week, he will also talk about it. I will make sure. Remember, I'm the son and the nephew to all of these great men and women. So all you have to do is say, Professor Small said, and then they know that you hold the key. You understand? You understand what the key is?
What is it that we owe you?
The key is my son have sent you, or the key is my nephew have sent you. And when you say, oh, I have the key, it's Professor Small, then the family will say, okay, whatever he wants.
Professor Smalls, thank you so very much.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Now,
yes. Another one thing. What is it that we expect to see on this university, like the curriculum? Because
yes, a curriculum that will be coming from the mind of the African. A curriculum that's viewing the world, that has a worldview that comes from the Africans looking onto the world and not from the world looking onto Africa. A curriculum that put our culture first, put our history first, put our ancestors first, put our language first. That's what you can expect.
Wow.
Viewing the world from African eyes, from African experiences, from African history. That's what we can expect.
So we're going to be expecting the next generation to all enroll in that university. We don't have to complain anymore. There's going to be no Yale,
We have to replicate it across the continent. You know, Houphouët Boigny, who was the president of Côte d'Ivoire for many years, attempt to build such a university in Côte d'Ivoire, in a village, his home village called Yamoussoukro. It's one of the biggest and most beautiful scientific university in Africa, and we don't even know about it, the University of Yamoussoukro. We got busy looking at a cathedral. The cathedral is nothing compared to the University on Science and Technology at Yamoussoukro. But if we don't talk about it, if we don't spread the word about it, students come from all over Africa to study at Yamoussoukro.
Even the ones in the diaspora. Why do we rush? We have to go to whatever.
Because we don't project what we've got. We've got so much right there on the continent. So maybe one day later on, you can do a show on Yamoussoukro and the great university that Houphouët Boigny left our people. And then the Western world got us talking about a cathedral. He built the cathedral for the Catholic Church. It says, okay, this is yours. Now you go about your business. But the university is for Africans. You understand?
Yes.
Okay. The great temple built by the great pharaohs Akhenaten, and the new city of Tel Amarna is all over Africa, but we've got to find them again. They're there. We don't have to go to the West to study anything. We have some of the best scientists, some of the best scholars in the world on the continent of Africa right now, and we don't respect them. You know, many of them had to go out to make a living in the world, but they brought that knowledge back home. Today, the American is landing a module on Mars. It's been in all the news. This thing is landing on Mars today or yesterday. But have they told the world it was built by a Malian scientist? No. Okay? A Malian scientist, okay, is responsible for this module mobile instrument that's mapping the surface of Mars right now, this moment. That's why what you're doing is so important. That's why the information you're sharing is so important, so that people can understand. Remember, the definition of freedom is to be shackled to your identity, its goals, and its purpose. Not to have the right to buy more time on whatever the British or South African mobile network. That's not freedom. Freedom is to be shackled to your identity, its purpose, its goals, and that becomes your continuum. Freedom is loving Africa so much you can cuss her out when you get ready if she's wrong. You can slap her face if she's wrong, and you die for her when you have to.
Yes.
Right or wrong. Right
yes.
or wrong, you die for her. You have a romance with her because you romance what you love the most. And that Africa is what we love the most. Its culture, its history, its people. See, that has to be our motive force. That's the real. All of us are going to die physically out of these bodies. Yes, even you with your most beautiful African queen, princess. But what are we but the continuum of the energy of our ancestors, trying to bring perfection to the universe by perfecting our environment here on Earth? That's African culture. You see? So that's what we fight for. True freedom is I'm shackled to my identity. And if I see a brother or sister not doing right, I will criticize him. I will even crush him if he's harmful to the greater cause. Yes, without hesitation. Or I will die for him if he doesn't have a weapon to defend himself. Then I'll put my body in front of him and give him time. Because I'm shackled to you, I'm shackled to him. Wherever we are, that's what true freedom is. That I can love Dr. Tata, having never met her physically. I can love Kwame. I can love Obenjoko. I can love Uncle Lunk in the South, having never met them. And I will die for them without a thought. Because I'm shackled to them. That's freedom. Nobody can fight that. Nobody can stop that. That's when they say God is love. That's true love, when you're shackled to your identity. So, but I wasn't the guest on the show today. I just stopped in to say hello to you and Dr. Phil. So,
when are you coming back to the show? Now that you just stopped in to say, Naisha, anyway, Naisha is watching, and we're going to be planning you for next week. Are you fit enough?
you know, I had to get over my surgery, so my health is coming back, but I feel strong.
I mean, I'm loving what you put on. I'm just looking at this Mali mod clothes, and I have it all over me here, but I see you just wrapped up in that mod, that those paintings and all the wishes that are put on that fabric there. should heal you, strengthen you, and bring you to us in all full pieces, nothing taken away.
Tell Nyasha to call me.
I will.
I definitely want to be sure to hear my big brother, Theophilo Banga, and my big brother, Dr. Wade Nobles, and have the world hear them and see that we have the best of the best right there in Africa. We have the best of the best in the African community in Brazil. We have the best of the best in the African community in Barbados, in North America, in Canada, in New York. Let's stop going to our enemies to look for guidance and light. Let's come to our family, our ethnicity. We can be brown like me and you, and even light caramel like you, and blue-black like Theophile. All shades of brown is nothing but shades of black. Black is the essence, it's the source of our being. You know, brown ain't nothing but shades of black. And once we're clear on that and not confused on that, we can take the power of the universe that's in the love. Like, I love Susan Tata. Like I said, I'm not afraid to say I love you. I love Nyasha. And I will die for you. I spent my whole life trying to die for Black folks. I don't know how I managed to live so long. I've been trying to die for y'all all of my life. But sometimes living for freedom is even more powerful than dying for freedom, which I've learned, you know, because it's about the knowledge. You're my daughter. You're my sister. You're my wife. You're my mother. You're my auntie. You're all of them. You're my goddess. You know, you're the womb that brought me forth to the planet. Otherwise, I can't exist except from that womb. That womb of yours is that aspect of God, the divine, that creates. That's our culture. And we can get back just to the rudiments of African culture, the rudiments of the laws of nature, which we so embrace. We can protect ourselves from the exploiters, you know, and we can correct the minds of our own people who have been poisoned by the exploiters. You know? You understand me?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes.
Now, I know I sound philosophical, but I'm also a martial artist. I know how to fight. I also have weapons. I know how to pull triggers. I served in the American military. I'm a very good soldier. I served and worked with the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army. I'm not afraid to serve my own people as a soldier. You've got to be an intellectual soldier, a spiritual soldier, and a physical soldier. You got to keep your body healthy so that you can continue to fight until you can fight no more. You know, when our children see us fighting, they don't even care whether we're victorious. If they see us fighting for the right thing, they will fight for the right thing, and then the victory will come. But they have to see us fighting, and they have to know we mean it. You know, most of my life, I've only had one jacket or two, one suit, one pair of sneakers, one pair of shoes. Because you guess what? You can only wear one pair of sneakers at a time, one pair of shoes at a time. You know, in America, it's cold. You can wear more than one pants, but they'll only see one pants at a time. So we don't need all these things. What we need is the love of your children, of your family, of your cousins, of your neighbors, of your friends that say Africa is one. We are all part of the African body, but it's just one African body. And it has been injured in many places by our enemy. And only the truth of our ancestry will allow us to heal those injured places. That's why history will erase the enemy's mystery. and let us work our black magic again. I love black magic. They could be scared of black magic. I'm not scared of black magic. I love black magic.
We're going to have a King Bongane of the Embo Kingdom, and he would tell us the magic that we need to work on. Thank you so very much, Prof. Thank you for
All right,
being here.
Mr.
I
Smith.
know, and just coming in to inspire us and tell us about what we have ahead and remind us of this, despite that you're still in, you're still in your bed. Hey, we send you all the love back. Susan, that I love you with all my life, and I love
Oh,
your
that has
family and
helped to
all of
heal
us.
me. That has helped
Yes,
to heal me. Thank you, my dear sister,
yes,
Dr.
you
Susan.
have to get healing. All the Africans that are watching you love you so, so much. And we're sending you the healing right out there. And so we see ourselves probably very, very soon. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, my dear.
Thank you so very much,
I'm
Prof.
wrapped
Thank
in our cloth. I said we didn't make no cloth. That was a mistake. It was a lie. We have beautiful cloths. See my beautiful mud cloth from Mali. It's just all over the place. And then when I come on again, I'm going to have my full kente.
Yes.
Woven silk kente. That's
Do that.
only made in Africa and can only be made in Africa. So
Do that.
peace and blessings, everyone. Peace and blessings out there.
Thank you. Thank you
see
so very
soon.
much, Prof.
Okay, my dear.
Yes.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Wow. Yeah. Dear Pan-African family, who tells you that we are lesser than any other race? Who tells you that? Whoever lied to us that we are lesser, that we're children of the lesser God, that our ancestors were inferior, that we are good for nothing, that we can't even build anything. Who told us that? Who told us that some other person is more than you because they build skyscrapers? Now you just heard that the thing, we call it the thing that is landing on the Mars tonight is being made and initiated by a Malian astronaut. No history would tell us that. No news will carry it. They would mask it all and say they're all great, but they would never tell you the source of it. And that's how we've always been. Every creation, in most creations, yes. It's the same thing like in the society. Write a project about Africa and they tell you, oh, you have to put your projects out here. They're gonna steal your knowledge, and then they give you a little bit. Go to the bank and say you want to develop Africa. They're going to tell you, bring a business plan. What is a business plan? It's all your knowledge you're giving. And they give you money and tie it to it. And we begin to say we're smart, we're business people. Nothing. My mother never went to school. My father never. But they were the biggest business farmers. They didn't even know how to write their names. Which banks do they go to? Which business plan they had to do? Sometimes we're just like, oh, you have to be professional. What do you understand by professionalism? You have everything. Everything. You just need to call me, Susan. I want to sell this thing. I make pepper sauce. How can I post it to you? Do you need a business plan? Do you need a flyer that looks? Do you need an internet site? No. I give you my address, you send it to me, and I buy it and you get the money. That's how we trade it. Out of love, out of connection, out of unity, we could trade with one another. If I have this, you don't have, and we exchange. Who taught us that we need to go to become doctor, professor, PhDs, and that to be able to build a university like Professor Theophile Obanga is coming to tell us? Who taught us that? Look at all the great authors, even of African history. How much learned were they? I grew up in a village where 100% of all the parents there never went to school. How did they survive? Are they still surviving? You don't need anything. We have everything. Everything. You just need to believe in you as an African and believe in your people. Believe in every one of us. We're just good the way we are. Irrespective that we fight, yes, why not? That we disagree, and so what? Who doesn't? that we do mistakes and fail, and that, what about that? Who doesn't do that? Would we be real people if we didn't do that? No. So I want to encourage you, and you see the luck, the energy that our ancestors keep dropping in the ones that are still alive. Professor James Moore has been on an operation for more than 10 days. And now he walked in the rows to just to surprise us and to say, we're doing a great job. Where would you ever see that? Without pain, Africans, we have everything. Please, let's just do this one last thing in our own generation and be proud of it, and let our children look at us and not give up. Let them not be disappointed by the very things that hurt and divide us together. No, let us be there until the end. Yes. So the whole week is full package with professionalism, with love, with cute messages that are going to empower you and make you fly. But like I said, March is going to open a very beautiful session for us. March is bringing every fresh things. You know what March is, right? So even us on the Pan-African Daily TV, we're going to extend our programs. So yes, I would be on the Dr. Susan Tata show with daily conversations, but we're going to expand a little bit. What is it that we want to do as for March? We want to give our young people, you know, our young people, our children, they have their own lifestyle. How do they see Africa, particularly those in the diaspora? We don't know that. What is it that identifies them? Do they think like us? What is it? They're born in a new circle. They have new technologies. They have new ways. Would an African young girl or man wear an African shirt and say, this is who I am? Would they keep their afro like Dr. Susan Tata and say, I'm embracing it? What is it that our young people do and aspire for the Africa that we want? I think that's just exactly what we're saying. We give power to the young people. So on the Pan-African Daily TV, we're going to be getting young people come out here, explain their talents, talk about how they see the Africa the way we are seeing it, so that we can be on the same frequencies, like Reverend Shock is saying. So we're going to be doing a lot of that. But of course, we're also going to be putting a lot of reportings and like this kind of presentation. So if you are shy of talking to the camera, so just do a beautiful presentation and teach us on what every spot is going to be given. So like we're thinking in March to open the Pan-African Daily TV all day and from 12 p.m. Europe time. So it should be all the times out there. And so bring your content on it. So we keep educating ourselves and improving and yielding. And we're going to get all sort of, and we're going to go fun time, music time, party time, everything that comprise of who we are. So it's not the Pan-African Daily TV. It's not just going to be Dr. Susan Tata and the kind of conversations. And then even the target groups that is following us, middle age. Yeah. So we want to go back now and start feeling and tapping into the connection between our young people. Of course, one day we're going to go and they're going to be sitting here, right? So yes, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and just a lot of good things are going to be happening in our lives and your life out there. But the one thing that we shouldn't forget is nothing happened to us. Something happened to us. And now we know it. So we shut up everything that we know. We know nothing. And we start learning who we are. So thank you, and we see ourselves tomorrow. Good night. And those that have contributed today, I want to thank my sister who just supported us with $25 or euros. Yeah, 25 euros. Vietnam Bentley Kraus. Thank you so much, my beautiful queen from Munich. You're the one that just donated to us, and others that are supporting the program. Thank you. I mean, a lot of people have been asking what are the donation links. We're going to be posting all these things, and even how you can be a guest. All the structures are being put in place, and we're going to keep it real. Okay. So we see ourselves tomorrow. Bye. And the Ubuntu love. Hey, the Ubuntu love. Bye.